I found myself in a place that I never expected to be. Work was great, and I was good at it. And I'd basically achieved a place where, as the chief operating officer, I was running the company. The CEO was playing golf. He'd moved on to basically a figurehead role, and I was running the company. I didn't have to answer to anybody. I was making all the decisions. It was like a dream role. It was great. And then God asked me a question. I've been going to Blue Ridge for about 3 years since we moved back to Lynchburg. My wife's, her dream has been to work with horses since she was a little girl. She had horses when she was a little girl, and it was just amazing how things worked out, but we had an opportunity to buy the horse boarding farm. My journey really started about 13 years ago. I found myself in Florida. I was having some issues with drugs and alcohol, and I just knew this wasn't the life that God had created for me. He helped me out of that pit. And I very quickly knew that I needed to be back in church. I needed that relationship with God to develop further than it ever had before. And so I started saying yes. The first yes was 12 years ago when I realized that God was asking me to tithe, and that was something that I needed to be obedient in. And 6 months later, the bottom fell out of the United States economy, and I found myself unemployed, and I continued to tithe on that. And about 5 years ago, I found myself in a very lucrative job. I was the chief operating officer for a loan company. I knew God was asking me to be willing. Was I willing to step out of that career? And it took a lot of prayer and a lot of battling. I had a new family. I had 2 young girls that I had to provide for, but I knew that the answer was supposed to be yes. You know, while I'm in a career and it's going great, and I feel like I'm exactly where God wanted me at that time, and why? Like, this is where you put me. I'm exactly where you put me on purpose. Are you willing to do anything I ask? Are you willing to go anywhere I ask? Are you willing to give all this up? And I started realizing, like, there's more to this. And so I said yes, but at that time, He wasn't asking me to step out of my career yet. I went to my boss at the time, the CEO, and I told him that I was giving him a 2-year notice that I was going to be moving back to Lynchburg. I thought for sure that when I gave him that 2-year notice, he was going to figure out a succession plan and we'd move on and I'd part ways. But he decided that he would let me work remotely, which he'd never let an executive work a day remotely. So it kind of blew me away. About a year ago, October 1st, 2018, my company was acquired. I was given a 1-year contract by the acquiring company that ends in 2 weeks. They said that 6 months in, they'd decide if they wanted to keep me, and 6 months in, they offered me a pretty lucrative contract to stay on. And at that time, I knew God was saying no. Now it's time to step away. So I turned down the offer, and I'm working out the next 2 weeks of the last bit of that first contract, and then I'll be moving on to new things. I don't know when I say yes what the next question is going to be. I don't know necessarily where God's going to lead me, and it's not important. I mean, I can say yes to, I'll start a new career, a new life, and because I know God's not going to take me, He's not going to take me somewhere and leave me. He's always going to be beside me. And the joy that I've had this last 5 years, but even more the last year, He's a loving Father. And as I say yes, and I know that He's pleased, the joy that comes from knowing that your Heavenly Father is pleased with you, there's nothing that compares with that.